give us that cover jacket synopsis, if you would, please.
Yeah, so The Secret Journal is about two teenagers, a boy and a girl, Brienne and Garrett, who come from very different worlds and both find themselves kind of thrust into this adventure. And ultimately, that adventure will lead them to each other. So the story is written from both POVs, and it alternates kind of back and forth until ultimately their stories come together. And I think it's fun for the reader to see how that happens. And then, as this plays out, they're challenged, I guess, with saving the world. So if they don't find each other and they don't come together and do what they need to do, then the world's pretty much doomed. So that's kind of the plot. And then the story too is, about a girl who has to deal with some heavy guilt and overcome that, and a boy who has to find a way to lead. So and deal with some pretty heavy untruths that were told to him throughout his life. So I don't want to give too much away, but that's kind of the story.
So is it fantasy?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay.
So it's contemporary fantasy. I don't give the year that it takes place in, but as you read through it, you can kind of imagine it taking place in the early 2000s or late 90s. And then I think that, there is a magical element that comes into play, but it reads a lot like, I'm a huge fan of Indiana Jones, the Goonies. So I kind of wrote something that I would want to read, and it reads a lot like a thriller mystery type thing. And you're trying to kind of solve, what's going on as the boys, Garrett and his crew find this old crusty journal behind the basement wall of an old Victorian home. And that kind of starts them off on their adventure, while Brienne is working with her father, who's a world-renowned archaeologist, and she gets to, getting ready to graduate high school, and she gets to spend the summer with him on a dig site, and typically how she spends her summers. And, she wants to be a famous archaeologist like her father. And so, that kind of spins them off on their adventure in a couple different locations.
Tell us, why you chose to self-publish.
Yeah, as I was writing this, I started to research traditional versus self-publishing. And I found, the self-publishing show, I think, with Mark Dawson. And so I found that podcast, and I started listening to the podcast, and I started to kind of also investigate, what it takes to get a traditional, and then, what control you have on traditional versus self-publishing. So as I just kind of went through it, it just, for me, so I don't have a degree in writing. I have a degree in business. So for me, it made sense to go ahead and try to self-publish, market myself, get it out there in the world, see how it does, right? Like I said, I didn't write this series or book thinking, how am I going to sell it and how much can I make from it? It was just really, I want to write something that people want to read, and I want to get it out there, or that I would want to read.
So how did you hear about this project, and how did you, go on to enter?
So one of the libraries locally, I did a book signing there, and they said, you really should enter this. You put your book in there. I wouldn't have known if it wasn't for the library, quite honestly. So I had a great book signing. It was my first one. It was at Deer Creek, Mackinac, little library, not far from here. And it was a good turnout. A lot of my friends came, and people I work with. And, she had said, hey, you really should think about putting your book in here. So I, looked it up online, of course, and just did that.
I think at this point, I would also like to tell you that Otto Schafer, we are not here today to just interview you. We are here to announce you as the winner of the soon-to-be famous Illinois Author Project for YA fiction.
Awesome, thanks. That's awesome, thank you. What a surprise.
Good. We always like to have a little surprise in there.
Who are you going to call first? You going to call the librarian at the Deer Creek Library? Or you?
Yeah, definitely going to do that. I know my wife will be thrilled. She's she's in the other room, so she'll be happy. So I'm just have shout through the wall to her as soon as we hang up and tell her so I'm excited about that. I have friends in Petersburg. Petersburg's where the story was set. If you were to ask me like my inspiration, I would say in one word, I would say Petersburg, but there's so much there for me. My childhood playing in those tunnels that I wrote about, Abraham Lincoln, it just was the perfect place to set the story for me, having lived there. And a lot of people say they don't want to write about a real town because it's hard and you've got to, you got to get all the act, but I lived it. So for me, writing about it was fun, and trying to put some of that magic into it for kids that live there now, I think is great. My mom, if she was still here, obviously she'd be somebody I'd definitely want to tell, because she was I read a book a day kind of lady, and so she read a lot, and I know she'd be proud. So thank you guys, appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'm thinking it's going to be a good one for you,
Yeah,
Otto.
absolutely. Thank you.
Woo.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.